Hello goddesses, and welcome to another video. Today is day 5. I was like counting in my head. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 20 more days to go after today. I'm having the funnest time doing this. It's really bringing out some different aspects of my creativity, and it's like challenging and exciting and thrilling, and I love it. I really love it. Maybe I should just do a Vlogmas every month and just keep it going. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. Don't hold me to that. Before we hop into today's video, don't forget to hit that notification button so you are notified every time I drop a new video. Also that subscribe button, because that helps me out so much, and I appreciate every single one of my subscribers from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys for your constant support. I love all of you goddesses. And today we are going to be doing something that is not new to me, but it is something that I've never filmed. I record typically on my phone is how I started doing my podcast. I would record it on my phone, and it wasn't until recently that I invested a little bit into a mic, and I figured while I have the mic and my phone is not being occupied, I was gonna record for you guys an episode live of A Life of an Everyday Goddess podcast that is available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Overcast, Anchor Podcast. In case you were wondering, those are just a few of the platforms. There are many more. I have, it says 7 here. So yes, those are the main ones that I see whenever I get like my statistics at the end of the week. I see that most people are streaming from those 4 platforms, so I typically just say those platforms because it seems like those are the ones that people are most familiar with. So yeah, if you would like to join the Goddess podcast family, go ahead and head over to any of those platforms. I am very much an open book on my podcast, so if you're wanting to have motivation and get to know me a little bit more, or sometimes, you just want to get inspired with just a different perspective in life, I definitely recommend my podcast. I also have a lot of other great podcasts that I listen to myself. And if you guys are interested, I can go ahead and leave those in the descriptions. Just comment that down below if you guys are interested, or I can send you guys a message with my recommended list. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into today's episode. I was debating if I should just take you guys on my whole routine of what I normally do, which isn't anything out of the ordinary. I just ask for guidance and just openness, because sometimes I'll be speaking whenever I do record an episode, and I'll just get a channeled message and just information that's just like a floodgate, and it's just pours out, and I can't really explain it. It just happens. And if you watched my Sedona vlog from a month ago, I did get an aura photo reading. The lovely lady who was there interpreting the photo for me told me that there was a divine portal light that was right by my throat chakra, which is why I'm able to bring all these beautiful messages to all of you beautiful people, and I am so grateful for that. I am so beyond grateful for that. That brings me into today's topic. I kind of want to break down the perception of who's capable or qualified to be a leader, because in reality we are leaders in our homes, we are leaders in our schools, we are leaders in our communities, and we are leaders for ourselves. We shouldn't really depend on other people to lead us. We should feel that empowerment and begin to lead ourselves, because that is where true fulfillment will come from. And in reality, you are the creator of your own universe. So whatever path that you choose, or whatever you're feeding your mind with, is really gonna help you build your realities, your perceptions, your perspectives. And it's gonna make you either love your life, question your life, and I didn't want to use the word hate, but you could also maybe hate your life sometimes because it doesn't feel like you. So to really get out of that funk is to empower yourself. And I encourage every single person, I say that so many times on my podcast, to either journal, start a podcast of your own, start a YouTube channel, anything that's going to be your own unique vessel to get your unique story, your unique perspective out into the world, because every single person has something to offer, something to give, whether you feel like it's repetitive or not. The way that your eyes see it, through your perception, through your realities, through your life situations, is a very unique to you, and it might inspire somebody else, or it might be the last piece to the puzzle for somebody to really step into their next level of self-discovery. So I always encourage you guys to take a leap of faith on yourselves, always, and just trust that if you're being guided to do something, that it's the right information for the right people. So sometimes not everybody is going to understand your perception or perspective, and that is okay. It's not for everybody, right? It's like you can't go into, you know, a kindergarten class and just start talking algebra. It makes no sense. It's not for that core group. Now that core group is so essential, and their minds are so beautiful and so creative, and you can learn a lot from that group too. Even if you're a college student, you know, in this like advanced chemistry or algebra. I'm not good at math, so I don't even know what the terminology is. Trigonology, I don't even know. But everybody can learn from everybody, no matter what age group, how old, how young. You really can. I am in constant learning mode, and I love it. I genuinely love it, and I have started to really hone into my own power to realize that my whole entire life was never a victim. I was just constantly being thrown lessons, and once you get out of that victim mindset and understand that everything in your life is actually for your benefit, to learn, to grow, and if you want to see change in your life, you just take your past lessons, apply them, and then, you know, have gratitude that you went through that, so you already know what it is. Now it's your choice to go down that road or not. Completely up to you. Everybody has free will, and I respect that. Unless you don't mean, like, I say that, but I always have like a soft part of, like, in my heart whenever somebody is harming somebody intentionally, like harming somebody. Sometimes we do things subconsciously, like maybe say something to somebody and it really triggers a nerve, or, you know, something. You don't know what emotional baggage somebody else is really holding on to. But if you are doing it unintentionally, maybe it's a trigger, you know, for them to release old trauma that no longer serves them. So always view it as, you know, lessons, growth, potential, beauty. And once you view it like that, then you can go to the whole next level where you're really in that creative energy, and you're really, you know, empowered to make the life that you desire. And that is my goal, for everybody to get to that sweet spot, because it's so beautiful, and there's a lot of turbulence, and there's a lot of tests that will try to bring you back, and it's just testing you to make sure it's like that last final exam, like, are you really ready? Okay, here is the keys to the gate, and have fun. Pretty much that's what it is. Sometimes, like, this is what I'm saying, I go on a rant, and I do this all the time on my podcast. I like literally go on a rant because I get real passionate about these subjects. So yes, as long as you're not intentionally have the mindset of hurting somebody, like, I feel like that doesn't really benefit anybody. But that's the only thing I say, like, I really don't vibe with. But everything else, like, people make mistakes, people learn, you know, it happens. So holding that space and allowing yourself to forgive somebody gives them kind of like the confidence to forgive themselves, because a lot of times people hold on to things because they feel like they're going to get judged or shamed, and they never forgive themselves, and then they have this like pattern and cycle. So if you want to change a cycle, you don't have to change the person, you can just change your reality, your perception, how you deal with it. That doesn't mean blocking them, ghosting them, because that just like pushes people further away and makes them like the Grinch, you know, like he gets mad because nobody took the time to understand, so he like pushed himself further away. He always wanted to be included, but he just didn't know how. So it took like one brave soul, so like Cindy Lou Who, to really kind of like open up possibilities, because she saw something different in him. She held space and kind of gave him hope again. So I have like this green jacket that's like sitting over there. I can show you guys if you really want, but that's what inspired the Grinch reference. But it's very, very true. So if you are going through something similar in your life, have faith, and yeah, take control. Have faith and take control. Like, it's good to have a knowing, but it's better to take the steps. It's like, I know I shouldn't have that cookie, but you know what? Instead of that, I'm gonna eat this. Instead of just like knowing you shouldn't, but then still secretly doing it. So you wanna you want to improve yourself. That's the goal, right? Evolution, evolvement. And I am in love with that theory. I literally love it. And I've been getting more into physics. I know if you guys watch the Goddess series, you guys know I'm like a real nerd for quantum physics, because it makes like slightly no sense, and I feel like that is literally me on most days. So I was definitely made for, you know, quantum physics life. I like with manifestation, who knows? It's just one and the same. Anyways, as I ramble, this isn't even a part of the podcast. See, this is the scary part. I never know how long my podcasts are going to be, because again, it just comes out, and then when I feel like, okay, I have nothing else to say, I wrap it up, say my goodbyes, add some background music, and then send it on its way. I do always do a little prayer before I do my podcast. It's just a tradition that I do. It helps get any nerves out, and it just like a way for me to like reassure myself that everything that I am putting out is coming for the highest good, and not just myself, but everybody who is listening. So that's just a tradition that I like to do personally. I already did it off camera because it's a very sacred thing to me. So yeah, let's go ahead and start recording. I have my laptop here, which went on sleep mode because I talk forever, but I have the Anchor website up. Again, I used to do it just off of my phone, which is totally fine, totally acceptable. It works just as well. Didn't have to spend any extra money on equipment. I've had a laptop from when I went to school many moons ago, and then again, this mic is a new. I did get it off Amazon, and I did a little bit of research before I invested in a mic, and it's not like a crazy expensive mic, but I mean, I feel like it's a step up from the phone, so. Or some people like the aesthetic. Maybe it just makes you feel more, you know, in the zone. Me, I kind of like a go with the flow girl, so I'm like, if that's what we have, we're gonna use it. So if I had a phone, that's all I had, and I wanted to make something happen, you're gonna use it, right? You're gonna have to take action. Rambling again. So anyway, so what I do is I'll go into my little record button area. So I have like a little record button area on my computer, and then whenever I hit start recording, it's like go time. And I was debating, I'm like, should I just be like talking like this the whole time? Should I like hold it in my hand? So I don't really have like a desk. I have a vanity. Maybe I should do that before. I'm like, wait. It's like right here. Also, I have notes. Usually I don't. Do you guys see that? The camera was moving. Okay, so I'm actually gonna do this here because I feel like if I was to record like this, at least you guys can see me a little bit better. Yeah, I think so. I also have to move this. This is like my note journal pad. Sometimes I'll get inspired, just, you know, living life, and I'll jot down notes for myself and reference back, like if I want to just get inspired or re-inspired. But really, normally what I do is I will go for like a long run or a jog just to kind of clear my mind. I like to meditate in that way because it's just, I'm not thinking about anything else but just like one foot, one foot, one foot. So like just keep swimming kind of a thing. And it really just helps me ground myself. Everybody has different techniques. That's a few of the techniques that work for me. But again, if you guys are wanting to start your own podcast, Anchor is totally free. No, this video is not sponsored. But again, I just want to encourage you guys to live your best life and go after things that maybe you haven't felt like were possible before, because I know like that the podcast thing was kind of intimidating. I'm like, where do I even start? And it took a little bit of research and a little nudge in the right direction. And yeah, it just kind of happened overnight. Like I had a friend was like, you just need to do it, like just do it. And so there I was like 2 a.m, and I'm like playing around with the app, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna record, stop overthinking it. And that's kind of when I took that first prayer to really help me kind of like calm my nerves and make sure everything I said was coming from a genuine place, which that's just kind of how I talk. But I just wanted to make sure that people would get it, because I feel like it's always scary because you want to make sure that people are going to understand your point of view. And then after a few episodes, I got over that nerve of like, everybody's gonna, you know, have to get this, or I'm gonna be like embarrassed. Kind of got over that because I'm like, the right people will get it. Because there's people that I gravitate towards that maybe other people wouldn't so much care for, but they've helped me tremendously. So don't doubt yourself, guys. Like, you got this. You got this, goddess. Okay, so see, this is what happens every time. So I'm gonna push start recording, and then I don't know what happens. It's literally just like the camera. It's like as soon as the camera turns on, or as soon as I know I'm gonna record, it's like a light, like it's like a flip, and it's just like, I don't know what happens. It just comes out. Have you guys seen Mean Girls? It's like word vomit. I wonder if like I'm gonna have to like mess with the screen. Because usually like I'll have my finger on like the cursor area, like in case it dies. I'm talking out loud and I'm rambling. I'm procrastinating. I'm good at that. I'm good at procrastinating. Start record. Hello, gods and goddesses. I want to thank you guys for being here again for another episode of A Life of an Everyday Goddess podcast. Today I have the biggest smile on my face. I'm literally grinning from ear to ear as I like see my reflection through my phone, because at the same exact time I am recording this podcast, I am actually recording a video for my YouTube channel. This is a Vlogmas series that I have going on now. Life of an Everyday Goddess, same as the podcast, but on YouTube. It is something that I've never done before. Obviously, this is all really new to me if you guys have been listening for a while. But it's something really exciting, and this is day 5. So if you're interested in seeing how I record, go ahead and check out my YouTube channel. Again, that's Life of an Everyday Goddess podcast. I'll have it in the description area as well. But today, as I said a little bit in my intro on my channel, I want to talk about just really embracing your own voice, really embracing your leadership and what it takes to be a leader, and maybe, you know, to stop putting people on pedestals and really putting yourself on your own pedestal, because no one's gonna lead you the way you're gonna lead you, right? You have the most unconditional love for yourself, that self-love. And if you don't, I can recommend so many techniques, but that is like where real power starts. It's baby steps, right? That journey to self-empowerment starts with, you know, knowing yourself. Once you understand yourself and understand the things you've gone through and understand that you were never a victim, that nothing was ever like your fault, that it was just experiences, life lessons, it really kind of empowers you to get into your next phase, which normally would be self-love and acceptance, right? Because you have to understand who you are. And then once you do, you can really accept yourself, and then you can love yourself. Very much like a friendship, right? So you don't just automatically start like vibing with somebody right off the bat. Like, you understand them, and then after a while you're like, oh, okay, I really like you, I accept you. And then sometimes like friendships grow into love, or relationships into love. It's just something that naturally happens. And we do this all the time with coworkers, with lovers, with friends, all the time. And we don't do it with ourselves most of the time, which is the funniest thing, because we give out all this free, you know, acceptance and love and understanding and compassion so many times to everybody else, but that's just because there's a part of us that wants it for ourselves. And I had a very profound conversation the other day about why sometimes things happen to people as far as like patterning and energetics. And a lot of the times, including myself, I'll attract a certain type of person. And I used to blame it on, oh, you know, I'm a healer, I'm a nice person, and this is why I attract maybe the negative people who need a lot of healing. But in reality, I was the one who needed the healing. So I was just constantly attracting friends and just like interactions with people who weren't necessarily the best, quote unquote toxic, or whatever the trendy word is now. But it was because there was parts of me that were still in that shadow aspect that I hadn't learned to love and to truly respect yet. So once I was able to recognize that, and yes, that is a hard pill to swallow once you have to like kind of see all of like you, like really see like the not so glamorous or the not so nice parts of you. You get to see maybe like, oh, maybe that's why that person didn't really like me, or maybe that's why I would get in an argument with this person, or this person looked at me sideways. Like sometimes we don't understand the energy that we carry, right? But once we're able to get past that and understand ourselves, know thyself, accept yourself, love yourself, you can really start to empower yourself. So that is like step 4, which is like I think where I personally am at, and hopefully there's a step after that, because I feel like you should never just settle, you should always keep going. And that is part of being a leader, right? So leaders get to that phase of empowerment. We all have the capability to get to a state of empowerment. I guess enlightenment would be the one after that. It just came to me. So enlightenment. And then once you're enlightened, I feel like at that point people feel like, okay, now I can be a leader, because I've gone through all of this, and I've gone through the darkest of nights, and now I can lead everyone else into the light, which I think, yes, is a beautiful thing. But a lot of people get caught up in, I'm the only one, right? I'm the only one who did this, and people kind of gravitate, but they never take, you know, the time to give all the praise that they're giving to everyone else to themselves. So in reality, if they were able to do all that work, all that self-acceptance, that self-love, really reflecting, they would get into that stage of empowerment and then eventually into enlightenment. And that is just the natural way, like the natural law, I guess, like of physics, right? So once you start to do one, it's just kind of like, it kind of cycles faster. And I did notice that the longer that I pushed something off, the more it kept coming up. So like the more I would neglect maybe like toxic friendships, the more I would get like friend requests from like other toxic people. And so it's like, it doesn't go away. You can't keep sweeping it under the rug. Like after you keep sweeping it under the rug for like 10 years, eventually it's going to get really gross, and then you have no choice but to either like burn the house down or just deal with it and finally clean it up. And I feel like that's the breaking point. Either people go through like a midlife crisis or depression, or develop some type of, you know, codependency or disease. And it stems from just like all this built up stuff. I mean, think about it. How long have you walked this planet? How long have you lived in this body? Like from birth, that's like a very traumatic experience, right? Like you pop up into the world and, you know, somebody's spanking your butt and you're like crying already, you know, and it's a lot to deal with, because you were in this like comfort zone of your mother's womb, and then you just kind of get pushed out. But then eventually you understand who you are, right? You build your personality, you love yourself, you're empowered, you start to like speak and become enlightened, and then the world shuts you down. Why is that? Like, why does the world just shut down like all these beautiful, young, vibrant minds? Is it because we don't want leaders in the world? I don't know. Maybe there's like a conspiracy theory there. I don't know. But think about that for a second. Like, why do we dumb down people who are already in like this self-love and acceptance? Is it to teach them more lessons? Or can these lessons be taught from these leaders, right? So I feel like a role as like a mother or father figure, and this is something that I do in my own personal life with my children, is I always kind of explain the things that I wish maybe, you know, I would not wish for them to have. So I was a teen mom, and I was like very fluid with my oldest son when I was like having the birds and the bee conversation. And I explained to him, I'm like, look at it from mommy's perspective. Look at it from your perspective. How does it make you feel? Do you want to continue this pattern in your life? Like, is this the kind of relationship that you want for yourself as an individual, for somebody else? So like whoever would, you know, have your child, and for the child. I was like, you lived it firsthand. And just had like a really fluid conversation. So I just brought up an idea that would spark his mind and left an open floor. like an open format where I wasn't gonna judge, like I wouldn't get upset whether he was like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Whatever he had to say, I honored it, right? Because that empowers him. And so instead of like saying, no, it's my way or the highway, my way or the highway, I kind of just gave him his voice. And since that conversation was 2 years ago now, he's grown so much. We've had so many constant, just like real life talks. And I get so choked up whenever I listen to him speak, because he's a man of like, he's a young man, very few words, but it's because whenever he does take the time to speak, it's very meaningful, it has depth for the most part. I mean, he's still a teenager, so he talks about random things too. But whenever he does conversate, he's very well put together, and he really takes the time to evaluate all the spectrums. And I think because he had that confidence to be empowered, and nobody needs to grant that to you. No, you don't have to have a parent that's like, hey, I honor your voice, whether I agree with it or not, like I honor it. And they might never agree with you, but that's kind of where it starts, like love, trust, respect, unconditional love, right? But if you don't have that in return, or if you never had that, you don't have to wait for somebody to be like, here it is. You can love yourself enough to give that to yourself. And that's a lesson that I learned in my own life personally, was no matter how many times people try to shut me up, I just keep talking. Now I'm completely opposite, because I am a woman of many words, many words, as you guys probably, if you're watching the YouTube video from this podcast, it took me like 15 minutes to even get this far into the video. But I am a woman of many words, but I feel like that's a gift of mine, and I honor it, and I love it, and I respect it, and I am comfortable with not everybody understanding my points of view, and I am comfortable with owning my point of view. And when you do that, it's really hard for people to manipulate you, because gaslighting is a term that I've seen so much on like TikTok and Instagram, and people like saying, this is how a narcissist, really controls you and manipulates you. But you're giving them your own power, right? You're letting them lead, and you're letting them, whatever they have to say is the end all. And I feel like, yeah, there's no growth in that, right? Who grows? Who benefits? Only one person benefits. And you can apply that to like the world today or society. But I feel like that's the bigger fish to fry, right? That's like the big picture. But it's never like just take down the one person. And I feel that's where a lot of people get caught up. They feel like the person who's in leadership is the only one that's contributing to everything that's going on around us. When in reality, you always have power to change your perspective, your reality, and to be that one in your household, even just for yourself, even if you don't have children, if you don't have a spouse, just for yourself, to empower yourself and know who you are, so you're not manipulated, so you're in your own power. And you don't have to, subscribe to a certain, I say subscribe to my YouTube channel, just kidding. When I say subscribe, I mean like just accept other people's beliefs, because maybe there's a few things you agree with, but maybe not all. And that's okay. That's the beauty of it. Like, we're not all the same at all. So we all should be empowered, and we're all gonna learn. But if we can have that open communication, that open love and respect for each other, then every single one of us can be leaders. And it's such a beautiful thing, because like I said, me and my son, we're so different, but we have like a respect for each other. Like, I can tell him my points of view, he can tell me his. And sometimes I do go to him for advice. Like the other day, his younger brother was really testing me, and I was just wanting to get like a fresh perspective, because I'm like, okay, before I kind of hone into this, so my middle son, he doesn't really care for talking much, like communicating. So that's okay. Some people are really introverted, okay? So they still have that leadership quality, they still have that voice. It's just, it's not as fluid, no matter how safe of a space that you provide, because it's within themselves. And I feel like that's great. And I don't want to take that away, because you don't want somebody to force you when you're not ready. So I was like recognizing, okay, I'm not gonna force, not ready, right? Like you can't force it. So I stepped back, and then I confided in my young teenage son. And again, we have very like just real conversations. You should always just be truthful with people you love in general. And again, that's a lesson that I learned the hard way. But yeah, no, I remember just talking to him, and he gave me great advice, like a different perspective. And yes, sometimes your kids have the key or the answer that you're looking for, but I feel like so many people discredit them because they're younger than you. But they have just like a whole different way of thinking, and they haven't been as wired or as programmed. So I feel like it's more of an organic way of thinking. It's just coming from a different place, and I respect it and I honor it. And so with leadership, I think people are like, you have to have done X, Y, and Z. You have to have this credential to speak on a subject. You have to have this credential to speak on a subject. Or no, you probably don't have to have any credentials to speak on anything. You are a person, and that's validation enough. You're coming to bring your perspective, which if people don't agree with it, it might trigger something in them, like they get upset, and then that's healing, right? Why are they getting upset? Why is it triggering you? Why can't other people speak on it? Are you intimidated with the information that is being brought? So it's like all these questions, right? And this is where growth comes in. But a lot of people, once they feel like, okay, I'm in enlightenment and I'm in that phase and I don't want to go up from here, because what is it? Am I going to have to go back through all that scary stuff? And you probably will have to go back through a lot of scary stuff, because I mean, dealing with your shadow side sometimes can be intimidating, and maybe they're just like, I don't want to face the music of just having to deal with that, so I'm just comfortable with everybody else following me, and we're cool. But let me ask you guys, all you goddesses out there, are you comfortable with that in your own life? Because if you're not, then you take power and control over it. And I always think, and I thought about this the other day, I'm like, we go to school and we learn all these amazing things, and I'm a sucker for knowledge. Like I watch documentaries like on my free time. Like I prefer to watch a documentary over like a drama or movie, even though I'm a sucker for chick flicks. I love chick flicks, but I love documentaries. I don't know what it is. I find it very intriguing. And I'm always like, it's either like stories that are passed on, right? Depending on how far back in history you go. So the information that we're learning is a he say, she said, right? So it's different perspectives. But we never really lived in that time, right? To really understand if everything we're being told is 100% the truth, right? But who questions it? I mean, there are people who question it, but do you ever question it? Who invented math? Like, who invented, like, all these things, right? Like, the right way. And that always bugged me, because I'm always like, there's never a right or a wrong. There's just a way. And if people are going to tell you this way or that way, I'm literally the person that's like, I'm not going to go either of those ways. I'm going to go the complete, like, other direction and make my own way. Because nobody should put you in that situation where you have to choose. Because I feel like that's just like a power trip or a control trip. Now, if it's in your best interest in hindsight, but then again, sometimes you need to like kind of let go of the control of the power and let people live and learn and experience, right? Because if they don't experience things on their own, especially when they're younger and they have like that safe, sacred place, it's really a lot more difficult for them as adults when they get into adulthood and they have to deal with all the stuff that they never really got to really learn and develop as a child, and then all of the greatness that comes in adulthood. So I think to be a leader, no matter how old you are, you can be 12 years old, 10 years old, you can be 55, like you can be whatever, you can be the leader in your household. I mean, I went to my teenage son for advice, and yeah, I mean, I feel like he gave me, sometimes he gives me the best advice. And I remember too when my, they all, so I have three, they all give amazing advice, and it's just so crazy because it's different perspectives each time. And I'm constantly learning, and I'm constantly grateful. So never just judge somebody for maybe not, like, hey, that person shouldn't be leading. we should all be leading. We should all be leading our lives, all be empowered to do so. And this is all so much of why I started the Goddess Empowerment series on my YouTube channel, why I started this podcast. I want to show you guys that there's always a way when it seems like there's no way, and there's no limiting beliefs. Like, you're the only one that's ever stopping yourself ever in life. Like, you are your own leader. Like, you don't have to follow the textbook. Like, who makes these rules? Like, make your own rules. As long as you're not, like I said in the very beginning of my YouTube channel intro, as long as you're not intentionally hurting somebody, live your best life. Live it. People are gonna have things to say, whether you are a perfectly great person or, you know, the worst person ever. Like, people are always gonna have something to say, and let them say things. I remember literally yesterday I was at work and there was a customer around and they were just like, you know, hey, I like to people watch. Do you ever people watch? And this was like an actual question. And I was like, why would I people watch? I mean, I guess, yeah, that's intriguing, right? It's like studying the person, but like, this is what the person does on a daily basis. To me, that was just so odd. I'm like, why would you watch somebody else? Like instead of just taking your own leadership and empowerment and living your own life. Now, I'm guilty of watching reality shows, so no shame on that. Plus, I mean, I have a YouTube channel, so obviously people watch me, and I watch many YouTubers, but it's not something like, I watch it to, one, either learn something, get inspired, but I don't watch to judge. And I feel like the art of people watching is, yes, you're observing, but you're also kind of like making a biased opinion on things that you may not know. And I remember saying, literally saying, no, I don't people watch. I'm the people that people watch. And then I was like, I can give you something to watch because that's just my personality. And I'm like, by me being my true organic self, I don't know, I have hopes that it is going to resonate with so many people who have the same drive, that want to be leaders, because you all are leaders. And I fully encourage you to embrace that side of yourself because it's beautiful, it's uplifting. And like I said, people can't really gaslight you when you're so in your power, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful gift that you can give to yourself, you can give to the people that are around you, because again, sometimes like your friends, your families are a reflection of you. So if you feel uncomfortable because you're the only one with this mindset, just own it. And eventually, you never know, like eventually they might see it for what it is, and you might inspire people that you would never have thought would have been inspired by you before. So it's a beautiful gift. But yeah, so if you know that you're a leader, own it, because the more people who actually rise up into their power, it's literally going to change the frequency on the planet, where everybody else is going to have to like rise up. And that's really where the change begins. It begins with you just owning, knowing yourself, loving yourself, and not falling for what everyone else is doing. Be your own leaders, guys. That is basically the moral of this story tonight. I hope you guys feel so inspired to go out and lead your best life, goddesses. I love you all so much. Until next time. Okay, so basically that is it, and I'm looking at like the viewfinder, and it's already like we're almost 40 minutes into this video, and it's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's basically how I do it. Again, ideas just come in and I just speak. But once you are really aware of who you are, you love yourself and accept yourself, there's really like nothing that you can't say, because you know where you're coming from and you accept it, and you have in your heart that you want to help others. Like, you're gonna shine and people are gonna get the message. Just know that. So just like I said at the intro of this podcast, I hope you feel inspired to be your own leader, because you are worth it, and you guys are all magically amazing. I love every single one of you guys. Thank you so much, especially if you made it to the end of this video. I love you guys. You rock. Until next time, goddesses. Well, like literally tomorrow, day 6 Vlogmas. And I'm going to be doing some random shenanigans because I'm tired of being cooped up in my room. So look out for my randomness If you guys like all like, you know, my, you know, randomness around town, watch my vlog series. It's also on vlog series. I have a Vlogmas, but then I have like a normal vlog series. I'm ranting and rambling. I love you. Until next time.